Mountain House is full of quiet brilliance. And today we are celebrating one of our own, Han-Joo Kim, a filmmaker, not made by glamorous sets, but in those quiet moments and real-life moments. Han-Joo, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Talk in the City.
Thank you for having me, Irene.
Yes, Han-Joo, I would like to talk about your background before we start anything else.
Okay.
Tell us a bit more about.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a 33-year-old Korean-American filmmaker, and I have been. Filmmaking has been my dream pretty much for as long as I can remember. When I was growing up, my mother was a major cinephile, and she watched every movie. And when I was 3 years old, she watched the movie Nightmare Before Christmas with me. And the VHS tape came with a little making-of featurette, where I got to see the production team of that movie make those little animatronics, and I just saw that and I thought that seems like having the coolest toy set in the world, Tim Burton and all them making those little toys move and seeing how that would turn into a movie. And already I was about 3 or 4 years old when my mother asked me, it's like, well, do you think you might want to do something like that someday when you grow up? I said, yes, I think I would. And she said, well, then you should try to be a movie director. And fast forward to today, there's been ups, there's been downs, but nothing so significant a detour as to sort of take me off the path towards filmmaking and being a writer director. So yeah, here I am.
Okay, so you had cameras as your toys, I suppose.
Yeah, actually, what's kind of interesting, I was going to talk to Mr. Corden about this after the interview, that the camera that's on me right now, I'm pretty sure I had that model or an older version when I was in high school. I used that thing in video production in high school. So it's kind of nostalgic to see it aimed right at me. It's like an old friend.
Han-Joo, so what should people know about you as a filmmaker today?
As a filmmaker, what should people know about me? Well, they should know that. That's a good question. They should know that I'm coming out with a new movie soon called Fully Cooked Beef, and I am. Filmmaking is my calling and passion in life. I've been in and out of some kind of theater my whole life. It's like live or movie theater. I have not gone one whole year since I was 15 where I hadn't written at least one feature film script. Now, the vast majority of those scripts were not very good. The average screenplay I was writing in high school to look back on it now, fairly terrible. I've actually gone back to read some of them, and yeah, they're no good. But yeah, I've been continuously writing them, and I write a lot. I'm always watching, always reading, always learning. And this is just what I was meant to do, and it's what I've known myself to be since I was very young.
Okay, we learn from our experiences. The past is not good, but you keep getting better.
Yes.
So what would you say has shaped your storytelling voice?
Yeah, that's a great question. A few different things, right? So when I was a young boy growing up in South Korea, one of the big, I guess you call it a social trend that was going on back then. I don't know if they still are really into this. I think there might be, actually. I'll get to why I think that in just a moment. But when I was growing up, there was this idea that when you're really little is the best time to get acquainted with classics of literature, right? And we don't really do this in America, but there were all these little popular book lines in South Korea where they would take classics of literature history and they would kind of write them in these kid-friendly forms, right? So that a little kid can for example, read Hamlet without needing to be able to parse Shakespeare in English. There would be a kid-friendly version of Dracula or whatever. So so I was reading a lot of classics since I was very, very young. In little comic book forms and little digested forms, Korean translated forms, Shakespeare was just always a constant companion to me. I didn't realize, by the way, until I came to America and I was in middle school, that I had never actually read Shakespeare in the original, right? Because I didn't realize that the version of Shakespeare I was reading as a kid was kid-friendly, digested Korean versions. Like I just thought of that as Shakespeare. I was like, okay, so I've read Romeo and Juliet, I read Hamlet, I read Macbeth, I read it all, you know. And it wasn't until I was in middle school, like I actually tried reading Romeo and Juliet in English. I was like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was, you know. But yeah, so that was formative though. I mean, like even though I was reading like these digested, you know, kid-friendly, edited versions of the classics. I mean, yeah, like I had some experience of Shakespeare and, you know, Jules Verne and, you know, Baron Munchausen, you know, one of my favorites when I was a kid, you know, like all like Sherlock Holmes. I had experience with all these on some level, you know, from I was very young, you know, Victor Hugo, Les Miserables, you know, and so that was major. You know, I didn't realize how major until I got older, much older. That's when I started looking back on my life and realizing it's like, oh my God, you know, reading all those classics from a young age really helped me out a lot as a storyteller. And another big thing, I guess, is like when I was in college and I was really like trying to become a movie director, I realized I didn't have as much experience in acting as I wanted to. You know, so I started acting a lot. I did a lot of live theater, and that was another major step forward. You know, like I think a lot of my storytelling really comes from the things I learned and experienced, you know, as a stage actor and working in live theater. So yeah, I think those are the two big things that really like were formative to me.
Thank you for sharing. That was great. That was a great foundation, and it probably shaped you as the person you are today.
Massively.
And also the fact that you read those books in Korean and then you have to translate now and read them in English. That must be.
Yeah. It's you know, it's but I think, you know, it's something I'd like to. I think we could benefit from that here in America. Actually,
yes.
I wish we had that. Yeah, I wish we had like kidified versions of the classics here in America too. Like I wish we did a thing where like, you know, we take like Shakespeare and like write them out as these like little kid books that kids can read, like Romeo and Juliet, even if they can't understand the original language, or like write like little kid-friendly versions of Frankenstein. I think like I'm kind of surprised. I've always been a little surprised to see that like the classics aren't as emphasized in America. I feel like, yes, but you know, that's just my feeling.
I do feel that as well, because I read classics when I was much younger.
Right, exactly.
The kid version. Yes. All right. So Han-Joo, you did Copper Bandit. That was your first experiment directing.
Yeah.
How was that experiment?
Okay.
Tell us.
Yeah, Copper Bandit. So for those of you who don't know, Copper Bandit is the first movie I ever directed, and it's a short film. I've never released it. It's about 15 minutes long. And the genesis of Copper Bandit was about 4 years ago. I realized that for all the screenplays I've written, I hadn't written as many short screenplays as I would have liked. You know, all my screenplays have been features, and that just struck me as being a bit wrong. You know, as I just thought, well, I really feel like short films are just something I need to get more into. You know, so I did this little self-imposed challenge in 2021, where I promised myself I would write 30 short film scripts in 1 year. You know, and 30, and I did it. Now, most of them were not that good. You know, it's like that's a lot of shorts to write, and like I would say most weren't good, but a few are really good. A few are really, really strong, and Copper Bandit was one of the ones that were really strong. And at the time, I was part of this writing club. There was this like little club of writers, a group of friends that I was part of, and we would all get together every Wednesday, and you know, online we would chat and we would read some things that we've been writing. And I read all 30 of my scripts to these guys, and they all agreed that Copper Bandit was one of the really good ones. They were like, yeah, like we should film this. So this group lived in LA. I think they still, they're mostly still in LA. And you know, we started talking, and we, you know, all agreed that I should go down to LA at some point, and we should all get together, and we should shoot this thing over like 5 days. Right, and so I wound up doing that. That was about 3 years ago, and the Copper Bandit was significant for a lot of reasons. One of which is that it was at the time the largest sustained artistic endeavor I'd done up to that point in my life, including cast and crew and myself. About like 15 people were involved in making that thing. I had a cinematographer, I had somebody watching sound the whole time, I had a makeup artist, and I had like 6-7 actors. So that was more people than I ever commanded before in the name of making art. So it was you can probably imagine that it was extremely nerve-wracking going in, right? I was very, very nervous going in. But we did it. and we got a movie that I still think is very good. I do want to release it at some point. I haven't gotten around to it. It exists. It's just I just got to put it out there. But yeah, it resulted in a film that I thought was really good, and I enjoyed the experience of making it. And it was the big breakthrough of making Copper Bandit was that it was the first thing that I'd ever done that really confirmed to me that I can do this, right? Because I directed shorts before, but it was like, you know, high school video production projects, or like, you know, me and like 2-3 friends, you know, making something. I'm not even really the director. Like we're all kind of just doing our own things. Like this was like, I'm the director, I'm leading a large team of artists that I've gathered for this purpose. We all believe in this script that I've written. It's my story, it's my thing, and we're doing this together, and we did it, and it was good. And I thought, well, this thing's like 15 minutes. If I do this like 3-4 more times, I have a feature. You know? so that's what made me want to do like a feature at that point. It's like, okay, let's just jump right in.
Okay, was that the lesson you took from that?
Yeah, there was a lesson I took from that, and yeah, it's just that I can do it, that I can be a director. There's a lot of the things that I thought, like, you know, I was, one of the things that really made me nervous was like I knew a lot about what directing is going in, but it still wasn't like real to me. You know, it's like and you know, going in, like it became real. Like yeah, it's like you have a vision in your mind, you know what the story needs to be. Tell the actors what you want to see. Tell the crew what you want to see. You know, tell the cinematographer how you want the shots framed. You know, do all that, and then trust your team to execute on what you told them to do. You know, and if you can do that consistently, and you can you know, stay true to your vision and deliver on what the project is supposed to be at the end of it all, you're a director. So yeah, that was the big lesson. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good to learn and hear. You know, and the tenacity and persistence.
Yeah, I found out that's another thing. It's like, this isn't Copper Bandit, but I learned I have a lot of tenacity. Yes.
Okay, so going forward, fully cooked beef. Tell us about it. Tell us about that. Your current project.
Fully cooked beef. Oh boy. Yes. So Fully Cooked Beef is my debut feature film, which at this time it's not complete yet. And principal photography has completed, and for those of you who don't know, principal photography is just the fancy, you know, movie industry where name for like the part of the filmmaking where you're literally shooting the movie, right? That's principal photography. So I've shot the movie, I've edited out a rough cut. Right now I'm working on like the sound and color grading and things like that, but it's all shot. And the Fully Cooked Beef, the genesis of Fully Cooked Beef was the original idea for the movie came about even years before Copper Bandit. You know, I actually first wrote what would become the script for Fully Cooked Beef when I was 27, 6 years ago. And the genesis for the movie was that years ago I was working as a security guard, and I was working late shifts, and it was a very lonely job. It's a very lonely job to be walking around the strip mall late at night. You know, it's like it almost felt like being in like outer space, or you know, like being in like the Antarctics or something. And I got so lonely and bored that I started coming up with, I'm always kind of like trying to come up with stories anyway, but like when I'm bored and by myself especially, I'm always like, my mind starts like really kicks into overdrive trying to amuse myself, you know, and I kept coming up with these imaginary security guard friends who might walk the patrol with me, right, to keep me entertained. And you know, it's like, this job would be a lot better if I had a friend. So I came up with a few different like imaginary friends during that time, and the most memorable one I came up with was a guy who didn't have a name at the time, but at the time I called him the pervert guy. And the reason he was called the pervert guy was that he was a security guard who took the job because he'd heard rumors that local sexual perverts were using the mall to do their dirty deeds late at night, you know? He was a really weird, out there guy, but he was funny. He's so funny. Like, he would say the funniest things, and he was so funny to me that I started imagining all kinds of other scenarios involving this wacky guy, not just walking security guard beats with me. And one of the scenarios I envisioned was like, well, what if he calls me up one night on my phone and he asks me to come over to his house, and it turns out that he's kidnapped a man because he thinks this man is a pervert, and he's going to try to torture him into not being a pervert anymore. Like, what do I do in that situation? Do I call the police? Do I like fight this guy? Like, what happens? You know, what happens? You know, and that that idea, it just crystallized in my head, and it started out as a comedy sketch. So we start out with an imaginary friend, we start out with a vague, dark scenario, that turns into a comedy sketch, and as I build on this sketch, we end up with a feature-length film. I was like, I have enough idea now for a feature film story. So I wrote down the story, and then I worked on the script. I worked on it. We had a script, but I had the script for a while, and I've been making revisions to it ever since. And it wasn't until last year I really started trying to shoot it for real.
Okay, so these characters, they feel quite intentional. Why these particular characters?
Why these particular characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so the pervert guy is in the movie, or at least it's not the exact imaginary friend, but like he evolves into a character in this movie called Mark. And Mark he's a very, very mentally ill, security guard who's obsessed with hunting and punishing perverts. Or he's like, he is, it's someone who, and when you watch the movie, I hope this comes through to the audience. But he's somebody who's very disturbed and violent and dangerous on one level, but also like deeply human on another level. It's and I've always told people that for me, the heart and core of this story, even though it's a very wacky story, even though it's got a lot of weirdness in it, it's got the heart and soul of the story for me is a story of a friendship. It's a story about I've called it a story of a once-in-a-lifetime impossible friendship between the two loneliest guys in the world. You have Aaron, who's the protagonist of this story, and he's an extremely lonely man who has no real friends, nothing in his life. You have Mark, and even though these two have nothing in common with each other, and Mark is this raving loony, somehow they manage to find that common ground. Somehow they manage to see each other's humanity, and we got this like shell. Right, like the way I see this movie is like it's like a peach, right? And like the meat is like this all the wacky black comedy, wild, crazy stuff that's happening. But like there's the seed, the heart, the core of the fruit is a story, is a human story about a friendship. So that's why these characters are kind of in the story.
Okay, so we were talking about that. Now we're talking about the tone and the balance of the movie. It's dark comedy, tension, this psychological aspect of it. How did you balance all that without losing the emotion of the story?
No, that's a great question. Because I think a perennial danger with like stories like this is losing sight of your tone, right? It's like where it's like there's a lot going on in this movie, and we don't want to end up in a situation where something is clearly meant to be serious, but people aren't really seeing it that way, or we don't want to learn to like pathos, right? That's like the fancy word for like something that's meant to be sad or serious, where the audience just start cracking up. It's like if people are laughing, I want it to be because I want them to laugh. If they're crying, I want them to cry. It's like and how the way I kept it balanced is for me, it's like my North Star. As I try to keep the tone balanced in any project I do is stay true to the characters and tell the truth about them, right? It's like that's how I say it. It's like so someone like Mark, he's very out there, he's very wild, very nuts, but I never, the authorial perspective, that is to say, like my sort of vision, like my sort of perspective, like the way the story is presented, the story always acknowledges it when he's being nuts. It's like everybody's reaction to him is true to who they are. Like Todd, the guy strapped to the chair, is always freaking out at him and like sputtering at him because that's the realistic reaction of someone who's in that situation. Aaron has his own believable reaction as a friend who cares for this guy, but he's also freaking out because this is a wild situation. So the way I like to think of it is like, look, as long as your characters are true to themselves and you know who they are, and you're not trying to cheat the audience in any way, as long as you're not lying to the audience about what they're seeing, the tone will find itself. The balance will find itself. I think the archetypical example of pathos is like that imagine a stage play where like an actor is playing a character who's about to commit suicide, and like he takes off his belt to hang himself and his pants drop down. It's like supposed to be a sad scene, but people start laughing, right? It's like, well, wouldn't it be pathos? If the director or the writer acknowledge the fact that this is funny. You know, if the story itself acknowledged that this is a goofy thing to happen, you know, it wouldn't be pathos. It might actually be part of the pathos. You know, so it's possible for a thing to be funny and sad at the same time in life. You know, so that's my guiding principle. It's like stay true to the story. Know what your story's about. Know who your characters are. Don't lie to the audience. Don't try to manipulate the audience. Okay, let everything be organic. Let it be real. Tone will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the title. That title really stays with you. Fully cooked beef.
Yeah.
I thought about it. Beef. You know, there's this slang beef when you're having an argument with somebody.
Yes.
So what was that about? Tell us
Oh man.
about it.
Okay. So yeah, like every person I've ever talked about, you know, like the title. So most people think it's funny. Some people think it's really out there. At least one person hates it. I've never had a situation where I told somebody the title of the movie and they had no reaction. You know, that's just the one. The only reaction I haven't gotten is, "Oh, that's cool. Moving on." You know, it's like everybody has a reaction. It's like you either hate it and think like what, or you love it. It's like that's the funniest thing ever, or like you're like what? But it's like nobody's just been like, "Cool title, bro. Let's move on." It's like everybody's got a question about it, and you know, the title is hard for me to talk about because like part of what I would like to see with this title is like I wanted to really like spark people's imaginations. You know, I want to really like after this movie comes out, I'd really love to like ask people who liked it like, so what did you think the title was about? You know, and I almost want to like hear everybody's theories, and I've already heard a couple of really good ones. You know, I've already heard a couple of good ones. Like one of my friends thought that it's like it's like fully cooked beef. It's like, well, you know, it's like it's saying that Mark's brain is fried, right? He's a crazy guy, so his brain is fried. It's all cooked, so it's like he's a crazy guy with a fully cooked beef in his head, right? I'm like, okay, that's a cool theory. And another friend was like, I thought it was like a sex joke. It's like because like fully cooked beef, that's like, you know, it's like a fully erect penis, right? I'm like, cool theory, dude. It's like, so I love hearing these little theories of what people think the title is about. And so I don't want to like, you know, I get kind of kill the fun for myself by coming out and saying like, well, actually, this is what I think the title is. You know, because, you know, it's like, for me, that ends the discussion. Like, oh, Han-Joo says fully cooked beef is a reference to, you know, this old movie from the 1940s or whatever. I mean, that's no fun. So like, so yeah, it's just I know what it is, I know what it means to me, but I kind of want to hear everybody's stories and theories. But one funny story about the title is that one of my collaborators on this movie is a Baltimore-based indie filmmaker named Jim Frohmayer, a really great guy, you know, amazing filmmaker. And I co-produced his debut feature film a couple of years ago, around the time I was making Copper Bandit, actually. And he hates the title. He hates it so much that he refuses to be credited as co-producer on my movie, even though he's done it. Because he says, I don't want the title Fully Cooked Beef to appear on my IMDb page. You know, so he hates it. So I was like, Jim, if you're watching this, this is a plea from your friend Han-Joo. Please accept the co-producer credit. Okay, I hope you've changed your mind by the time you see this episode, if you do. So yeah, so that's the title, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll tell you why. Fully cooked beef, my first thoughts were, okay, maybe it's a cooking thing, sure. Then later, fully cooked beef, I think these guys are having a fight. They're very upset with each other. They're having beef
right.
with each other.
That's something I heard from a lot of people. It's like, oh, okay, it's about like a group of guys like having like a fight, like they have beef, right? It's like, that was Jim's theory before you read the script.
Okay.
But I just want people to let their imagination run wild. This is gonna sound like an even goofier title. At one point I was gonna change it because he hated it so much. I was gonna change the title to The Southside Gorilla Mangler, and that's an even goofier title. But that actually is a line that comes up in the movie. That's a line. You know, it's at one point. I'm not gonna spoil the context, but yeah, like somebody calls another character, "You're the Southside Gorilla Mangler, aren't you?" You know, so it's like that was going to be the title for a while, but then I changed it back. I was like, I told another friend, it's like, well, it's either going to be Southside Gorilla Mangler or Fully Cooked Beef. And that friend was like, it's got to be fully cooked beef. He put it to me like this. He was like, look, if I was ever bored, right, and I was like scrolling through Netflix or like other like streaming service I'm on, and I saw something called Fully Cooked Beef, I'd check it out. Yeah, he said that. I was like, I'd check it out. I don't even need to see the plot description. just from the title alone, I gotta see what this movie is. Is it, if it's only like 65 minutes and it's called Fully Cooked Beef, I'm watching it. So that's where, yeah.
Okay, so your experience filming this, what has it been like?
It's a heck of a journey, Irene. It's been very painful. Yeah, so after Copper Bandit, right after Copper Bandit, I tried to shoot a feature film, and the first feature I tried to shoot after Copper Bandit was not actually Fully Cooked Beef. It was an abortive feature for a script I wrote called The Many Dreams of Anna Sophia Percy. And that's a very, very different story to Fully Cooked Beef. You know, it was about a young woman who's a painter, and she's having an artist's block, and she goes on a spiritual journey of self-discovery. You know, it's a lot funnier than it sounds. It's actually kind of a goofy comedy, but you know, it's kind of a touching core. A lot of people love the script, but it fell apart because of budget for one. You know, it's like if you read the script, like it's like this thing clearly can't be shot for under like 20 million. You know, so after that fell through, I tried shooting Fully Cooked Beef, but then my first attempt at shooting Fully Cooked Beef fell apart because a bunch of actors dropped out. You know, I had to recast the role of Mark 3 times. There's one scene in this movie that I had to shoot 3 times before the movie was done. First time with the first actor I cast for Mark, that guy dropped out, so I cast another guy to play Mark, that guy dropped out, and the version you're going to see in the movie is my 3rd time shooting that scene. So it was a lot, and even after I started shooting the movie back in September, we still ran into difficulties. Like the actor I cast to play Todd, really gifted guy, really talented actor, but he got sick on the 2nd day of shooting. Yeah, so I had to replace him. I had to recast him last minute with Mr. Stephen Wright, who, I don't know, you know Crystal from the farmer's market, right? Fab Freeze Fun, the freeze-dry candy lady?
Yes.
Yeah, her brother volunteered to help with the technical side of the filmmaking. Like he was going to hold the boom and stuff. But I had to, at the last minute, put him in my movie as an actor to replace the guy that dropped out because he got sick. And he was very scared. You know, he'd never acted before. He was like, Han-Joo, I didn't expect to do this. I was like, I can't act, I'm sorry. And I actually gave him this little pep talk. I was like, look, Steve, do you think I'm a good director? And he said, yeah, I do. I was like, well, look at Luke, the guy playing Aaron. I was like, do you think Luke's a good actor? He's like, yeah, I think Luke's a good actor. I was like, don't you think between him and me, we know something about acting? He was like, I guess you do. I was like, well, if both of us think you can do this, don't you think that should tell you something? And he said, okay, I'll do it. And sure, he ended up being really great. Yeah, when you see the movie, I mean, when I was showing it to Jim and like other people on my team in like the sort of a backstage capacity, right? Nobody guessed that Steven was like a last minute replacement until I told them. Like everybody just thought he's part of the cast. You know, he did really great. So this production was running into choppy waters just all the way through. It was a roller coaster. But in retrospect, I'm really glad that it all worked out the way it did. I mean, this is my first feature film, but I actually think of it as my second feature. Because when I tally up like how much I shot on the first time I tried to make Beef, plus the 30-35 minutes of footage I shot of Many Dreams before that crashed and burned, plus the 15-minute short film I made, Copper Bandit, I think I made roughly the equivalent of a feature before this thing came out, you know, and so I'm glad, even though at the time the ride was happening, it was very frustrating and annoying, and I wanted to bash my head against the wall. In retrospect, I'm shocked at how well it all feels like it was like meant to be almost. Like it almost feels like God was telling me, like, Han-Joo, I know you want to make this movie, you're not ready yet. Okay, I need you to do like 1 more year of apprenticeship and practice before you'll be ready for this movie to do it justice. So like, just give me 1 more year. You're gonna do 1 failed attempt at Many Dreams. You're gonna do 1 failed attempt at Fully Cooked Beef, and then you'll be ready. That's what it feels like. And I stepped behind this, I stepped into the director's chair, and I did what I think is a pretty good job on this.
Okay, those hard moments really refine us.
Yes, I agree.
Make you better.
Yeah. I at one point, like it was someone suggested that I quit, like after my second mark dropped out, and I just got furious. I was like, I'm not quitting. You know, so like I just you know, is that. And speaking of tenacity from earlier, you know, that's one of the things I learned making this movie is that I'm a really tenacious person. You know, people have been telling me, the Han-Joo, I gotta say, that you are a lot of things. Whatever you are, quitter isn't one of them. You know, people have told me that you're definitely not a quitter. You're a stubborn man. You know, you're a hell of a stubborn man. When you set your mind to do it, you do it. You know, you're not a quitter at all. So yeah, that's something I learned.
Absolutely, you are. That's very, very good.
Thank you.
So, how long is fully cooked beef?
Great question. So at the time of this interview, it is the rough cut that I have is standing at about 65 minutes. So the American Film Institute, the AFI, defines a feature film as anything over 45 minutes.
Okay.
But the SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, the main actors union in America, defines it as 60 or over for their purposes. But that's their own thing. The vast majority of jurisdictions and film festivals define 45 and over as a feature film.
Okay.
So mine is 65 at the time of this interview. I'm probably gonna whittle it down by a couple minutes. I suspect that by the time it's released, it'll be about 61 or 2-ish minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where it is.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah.
you have a feature film.
Yeah, it's a very fast. It's a shorter feature, but it's very fast paced. Like it's like one of my friends who's seen it said it's 65 minutes of like every 5 minutes there's a plot twist, which is not true. But like that's what he said it feels like. Like it's like 65 minutes of non-stop, just like bam, bam, bam. So that encouraged me. I was like, that's what I was going for. I wanted to have that sort of relentless feel.
Okay. All right. So, where can people find this?
That's a great question. So I have been telling everybody in town that I would like to do a local screening here in Mountain House. Before I started shooting this movie, I actually did a local screening of The Raven of Baltimore City, which is the movie that Jim Fromayer wrote and directed that I co-produced. And Brian was there at the screening actually, and it was a good screening. And I promised a lot of people, a lot of friends and neighbors here in Mountain House that after I'm done with this movie, I'm going to have a screening like that in Mountain House, right? But yeah, the word of this movie, just everybody knows that I'm making this movie in Mountain House now, right? So the list of people I gotta invite has grown pretty big. It's gotten pretty big. And I was talking to Brian and Bob about this before the interview. I don't know where I'm going to be able to screen this. I'm still trying, but I will have a screening in Mountain House after it's done, and invites will go out a couple months at least before the screening day. And so if you're a Mountain House resident and you know me, you will be able to see it that way. I'm not going to be charging for it. It won't be advertised, hopefully, because I'm going to have to check as to whether that would violate count as a premiere. Because I know a lot of film festivals have a clause where if a movie released or premiered, then they won't accept it, right? So there's a lot of crosses, T's I gotta cross and I's I gotta dot. But I'm going to try to have a screening in Mountain House. And even if it turns out that I can't do a screening for film festival reasons, if you are someone who knows me, if you're a Mountain House resident and you want to see this movie, then I'll obviously make it available to you. It's if you ask me, it's hey Han-Joo, can I see your movie? I'll send you a link or something, because you're my friends and neighbors. Everybody in Mountain House. If I know you, you'll get to see it no matter what. But as far as wider plans go, my dream is obviously that it'll do well on the festival circuit and get picked up for distribution and all that. So the short answer to your question is, if you're a Mountain House resident and you know me and you want to see this movie, you either get an invite to the screening, or even if that doesn't happen, if you ask me nicely, I'll just send you a link. Yeah.
Okay, I first heard about this at the farmers market, so everybody at the farmers market must get an invite.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there was that one day where I had to drop from the farmers market because I had to shoot. Yeah. It's I guess people were talking about it that day. I was why isn't Han-Joo here? He's shooting this movie.
Okay, and we're so proud to have creatives like you in our community.
Thank you. I'm proud to be part of the Mountain House community. One of the really amazing things I learned about Mountain House, is just how much when people learn that I'm making a movie, I've gotten so much warm support from the community. I've gotten so much words of encouragement and support. People are really so proud and supportive to have a filmmaker in the community. One of the big set locations in the movie was actually a farm property owned by my friend Suresh Vayuru, and he just generously let me borrow that barn for the whole weekend to shoot my movie scenes there. And that's just one example. It's so much. So that's something I learned about Mountain House, is that this community really loves and supports its artists. And I think that's a lovely thing to see.
Yes, yes. Our community is really supportive.
It is.
Yeah. And having said that, how can they follow your work?
How can they follow my work?
Yes.
Well, so I'm one of those weirdos who try to be like very offline. So I'm not very engaged with social media because it's just like last time I was really engaged with social media was about 4 years ago. Like I spent a lot of time on Twitter, and at some point I had this revelation like Twitter is to my mental health what cigarettes would to be to my bodily health. And I was like, I'm gonna quit Twitter. And sure enough, as soon as I stopped going on Twitter for like 2 weeks, I felt fantastic. Like my attention span was back to where it should be. My mood was great. I wasn't so anxious anymore. And so I was like, why am I ever on social media? This stuff is awful. But I also understand. I also understand that from a professional standpoint, if I'm gonna be a filmmaker, then yeah, like I mean, social media is where people are gonna be able to find me. So I'm gonna try harder this year or like coming year to be a little more professional, even if not personally active on social media, try to be a little more professionally active. So like people who are interested in following my work and my art have like an Instagram account they can follow. They can follow what Han-Joo's doing now on Facebook, Instagram, wherever else ever, right? So that I'm not like so invisible. But yeah, I'll admit, right now I'm a little offline. I do have a Facebook account. I'm not as engaged with Mountain House Facebook as I'd like to be. I'll try to change that. For now, the best way to follow me, if you're a Mountain House resident, is to, this is gonna sound like a goofy answer, but like we're a small town. I'm like less than 4 degrees of separation from everybody. Just ask someone. Just ask someone like, hey, do you know a guy who knows Han-Joo Kim? Yeah, exactly. You'll find it. I'm everywhere. Like people are always walking into me because I run a lot. So you probably see me on your way to work, like in morning commute. Like it's like so goofy answer. I know it's a very goofy answer. Like if you swing by the library, all the librarians know me and they see me every day. Like if you go to a library and ask Heather, the head librarian, hey Heather, has Han-Joo been in today? She'll have an answer to that question, So yeah, so sorry guys for making it so inconvenient to kind of follow me. I'll try to change that in the coming year. But for now, just ask around the town and someone will point you.
Yeah, so just ask the next person.
Pretty much, yeah, no, that's it.
Yeah, so Han-Joo, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a lesson to everybody. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to do what you've been asked to do.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Just get out there.
Yeah, if you have the passion and you have the drive and you have the vision, okay, you just, that I love that old saying, like people who wait for the perfect conditions to have kids die childless. People who wait for perfect conditions to follow their dreams, they go to their deathbed and realize that they squandered their lives. So, so if you want to do something and you know that you're meant to do it and it's a calling, don't wait for conditions to be perfect, just make it happen. Conditions will never be perfect because we live in an imperfect world. Just do it. Just believe in yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Just get out there and do it. Thank you, Han-Joo.
Thank you, Irene.
And thank you for watching and thank you for joining us on Heart Talk in the City.
Bye.
Awesome.
How was that?
That was awesome.
Thank you.